Good morning, everybody. Welcome back for our Big Adventures Unplugged. I am here at Seaworld Orlando, and behind me, right over there, is Seaworld's newest ride, set to open in a couple weeks, Expedition Odyssey. This ride is said to be one of the first types of this kind of ride, like a flying theater style ride. It's said to be one of the first of its kind in the entire Western Hemisphere. Pretty neat. I got to see a little bit of a preview of this at IAAPA this past November. But until then, it's been largely kind of kept quiet as to, what it's going to be like and what the features are going to be. From what I understand, just talking to some of my coworkers here that have been inside the building for kind of a walkthrough, they said that it's more like a cross between Soarin' at Epcot and Avatar Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. If that's true, then we're in for a treat here at SeaWorld. It's very much SeaWorld Orlando is very much overdue for a indoor ride. SeaWorld used to have a couple of them here. They used to have the Wild Arctic, which used to occupy the building behind me, and then they used to have the Empire of the Penguin trackless dark ride, which when that opened up, I want to say 2013, 2014, that was the first of its kind as well. SeaWorld's been pretty much a pioneer moving forward with some of these first of its kind rides. And obviously with that comes some of the technical difficulties in getting these new rides to function correctly. Basically, I'm here today because we're supposed to get a preview of this ride. They're going to allow the ambassadors to ride. I think today is from noon to 8 p.m. And I think you can ride it as many times as you want or as few times as you want. We do get paid to do this. If you're off duty, basically you come in, they scan you in, and then you can go on and take a few rides. This was supposed to happen yesterday, but the ride still isn't quite ready yet, so they had to delay it to today. It was supposed to be at 10 a.m. this morning, and that got pushed back till noon today. It's currently about 11:15. So I'm just kind of hanging out here waiting to see what the what is. If I get to ride this, clearly in the email that SeaWorld sent out to all the ambassadors, they said everybody's welcome to ride. However, and just like with Epic Universe and the Universal team members, it is underlined, italicized, in bold, absolutely no filming, no photography, no recording of any kind. If you get caught doing so, you will be promoted to permanent guest, just like Universal did. So I will be showing you, everything from outside here, but as of right now, nothing inside. If I get a chance to ride this today, we'll talk about it for sure. Kind of go over it, what I thought about it, what I experienced, and how we think, moving forward, is this going to be a good fit for SeaWorld? I think it will be, because like I said, SeaWorld Orlando desperately needs some indoor attractions because this is Florida, Orlando, Florida. It rains and thunderstorms here a lot. Right now we're currently in a really bad drought, so we haven't had any rain in a couple months. But we're getting into our summer season, which about mid to late June starts the rain and thunderstorms every single day like clockwork until about late September, early October. And then we go into our drier season from October till about April or May. So it's cyclical, but during the summer months, guests need something to do. That way when the afternoon storms roll around, they have something that they can actually go ride. Because right now, with all of their rides being outdoors, when the thunder, lightning, and the heavy rains and winds come for the Central Florida afternoon thunderstorms, obviously all of the roller coasters and everything that has an elevation and is outside has to be shut down. There isn't a whole lot for guests to do except walk through the aquariums. So this is a really good addition. Hopefully they'll do a few more rides, similar that are indoors, and that we can kind of spread things out evenly, because SeaWorld's got some amazing roller coasters, just don't have enough indoor dark rides. So this is definitely a step forward in the right direction. So we're just going to hang out here for a little bit. We'll walk around the exterior, I'll show you around a little bit, and then we'll wait to see what happens. Hopefully get to ride today. Welcome. Once again, anything I show you is going to be from the exterior, nothing from the interior. So this is part of the old Wild Arctic right here. Hopefully they keep this, because this is part of a little bit of history here. For those that weren't familiar, Wild Arctic was a simulated helicopter ride similar to The ride vehicle is very similar to Star Tours at Hollywood Studios. Because this one here was one of the first of its kind, it got very rough. Riding it would pretty much realign your spine. And they closed it down after the events of 2020. They never reopened it. They took everything out. They took there was 3 or 4 ride vehicles inside there, so it had a very high capacity. But after 2020, they took those out because they were, starting to fall into disrepair. The ride was very rough. It had very low ridership. And so they just used this as a walkthrough attraction where the beluga whales and there's some penguins and walruses and everything else in there. It's very well themed too. It's literally like you're in the Antarctic. They did a fantastic job, because once you got out of the original Wild Arctic ride, you could either exit out and come through the gift shop, which is in front of me, or you could go through the base camp. And when you exit out into the exhibit, it's like you're exiting out of an airport. So it's pretty cool. I guess they were doing some renovations, so I'm not sure how much they kept and how much they changed. So I'll be curious to see it. But for the last couple of years, they've used it as a walkthrough exhibit. But I do like the addition of the northern lights up on the windows up there. That's pretty neat. And over here, you can see all the construction walls. This whole building here encompasses the Wild Arctic ride. What they did with this one, from what I understand, is they have built 3 theaters. One will be open to start with, and then the other 2 will open in time. So eventually, when this is fully complete, it will have a very high capacity. And then right here, you can tell they've upgraded the sign a little bit. They did have a banner up here the other night that said Expedition Odyssey, but they've since removed that. So I'm guessing they're gonna put more of a better themed sign up instead of just a cover that says Expedition Odyssey. And now if you can see behind there, you can see the doubles, you can see all the zeros. That's the wait time, so that must be the main entrance. And I'm guessing over through this way behind these walls here will be all of the queue, which is kind of how it was before. Or they had 2 options on the old Wild Arctic ride. They had one where you'd go through the pre-show and then you could walk through the exhibit, and they had the other one obviously where it was the actual attraction where you'd go through the pre-show and then board the attraction. So my guess is they're going to keep it very similar. And then behind here you can see the show building back here, which is pretty big. Like I said, it starts there and runs all the way back that way. You can't see it from here, but it is pretty gigantic. And again, from what I was told from my leadership who have been in this building doing the walkthrough with the fire department, because basically in case something happens, we got to know how to get people out of this ride. They said it is big, and there will be 3 theaters. And I guess these theaters are huge. Yeah, it's definitely active work going on. They were going to open this up to the public on May 1st, but that was quickly pushed back to May 9th. So my guess is if they're still doing active construction in this area, there's a couple doors here. Probably if they go ahead and we do get to preview this ride today, my guess is we'll either enter in through these construction doors here, or they'll have us enter in through the Antarctica gift shop back this way. Now it looks like too, this glacier bar and everything in here is getting a complete retheme. I'm excited to see this when it's all done. It'll be a nice addition to this area, because now you'll have the Expedition Odyssey, and then we'll combine that with the ice theming in this area with Altitude Burgers, and then of course Icebreaker over there that opened a couple years ago. Well, I just got the notification on my phone that now the Ambassador previews for Expedition Odyssey have now been pushed back till 2 p.m. So it's now 11:30. I got here at 9:30 for a 10 p.m. start, and of course they pushed it back to noon, and now it's being pushed back till 2. I don't know if this is going to happen today, folks. Now, this also is a first of its kind attraction, and there are growing pains to be expected with this thing. So I guess we'll head home and we'll head home and just kind of chill out for a little while. We'll see if this thing opens. If it does, we'll try to come back maybe later this evening and ride this. Yeah, I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited to try this. But hey, gotta get her running safely though. So we'll catch up in a little bit. Good morning, everybody. It's the middle of the week, April 30th. You believe it? Tomorrow is May. Freaking May already. In less than a month, the official kickoff to summer will be here. Memorial Day weekend complete with the Indianapolis 500 and the real race of the day / night, the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, formerly Lowe's Motor Speedway. I think it's Charlotte Motor Speedway now. Whatever it is, that's my favorite race of the day. I love watching the 500, but 600 is amazing. All right, continuing on with where this video just left off. I did get to ride Expedition Odyssey at SeaWorld. Let's talk about it. Forgive my sunshine bandolier here. The sun is it's coming in perfectly, and yeah, it is what it is. Yesterday when I was working at SeaWorld, they called us all over to the main first aid station and all the medics and EMTs that were working and asked if we would all like to ride the new Expedition Odyssey. And I said, absolutely. Anytime, you get to be one of the, first groups to try a brand new ride out and test it. Yeah, I'm all about that. I think that's a really cool thing to do. I was working there before when Icebreaker opened up, and that was another one where, if you were on the clock, you got to ride as long as you had approval from your supervisor. And if you were not working that day, you could come in like I did at the start of this video, and they would sign you in with your ID. And because it's considered you're technically working because they have to cycle the ride for so many times for so many hours, you get paid to do that. So it's a pretty cool benefit of working for these theme parks, especially when new attractions opened up, and even like the lands, like Epic Universe with the Universal team members getting to do that too. Now, I'm sure theirs was a little bit different. I don't think they got paid to do that. I think they had to do that on their off time because going to an entire theme park is a little different than riding an attraction. So let's talk about Expedition Odyssey. It's clearly not quite ready yet, and I hope that the designers and the construction workers, whoever is involved in this ride, I'm sure they're working around the clock, because there comes a point, and I think it's happened already, but I'm not sure. But once the ride hits a certain point, the manufacturer, whoever designs the ride, turns it over to the park and then the park's employees. Basically, they said, we got this as far as we can get it. It's all yours now. Basically, like handing you the keys to the kingdom, if you will. I think that has happened now. I think their part is done, or not close to. They might not be quite done yet, because just from what I observed, there's a lot more tweaking that needs to be done. Obviously, like with the Universal Orlando Epic Universe deal, when I got the advertisement that SeaWorld ambassadors could ride this, as I mentioned earlier, in bold, italics, and underlined with arrows pointing at it and everything else, absolutely no video, no recording, no photos, no nothing. Otherwise, like Universal promised their team members, if you're caught doing that, you will be promoted to permanent guest. So obviously, I didn't take any photos or videos or anything, not even audio, because I enjoy my work there and do not want to jeopardize that in any way. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. Hope you're all good with that. Just try to imagine a little bit, if you will. If you want to see what it looks like behind the scenes, they did a media preview a couple of weeks ago. You can find that throughout YouTube and all the social media sites. If you type in Expedition Odyssey media preview, you'll find people that got to go do that. But I'm going to give you my impression of this ride and my take on it. First off, like I said, it's not quite done yet. Which is why they don't want people taking photos and videos. They're still working on it. It is going to be that perfect mid-level attraction and on top of that, an indoor attraction, which SeaWorld Orlando desperately needs. So what they did was they completely overhauled the inside of the Wild Arctic. You know, from what I understand is they freshened up the paint and everything in the Wild Arctic base camp, which is great. And after exiting the ride, it still looks like you're going to get the option to go through the Wild Arctic experience where there's, you know, you can see the beluga whales and all of the other animals that are in there. And plus it's themed to like being at a base camp. Or if you don't want to do that, you can exit out to the right and you exit out through the gift shop. Just like everything in Orlando, you must exit through the gift shop. Go to the bathroom, exit through the gift shop. It looks like it's going to be a similar experience. Now, as far as the pre-show and the starting queue and everything, we didn't get to see all that because we entered in through a side door after they scanned our employee badges. So I didn't get to see the first part of the queue. My guess is it's going to be kind of outside underneath those awnings, kind of like it used to be, and then you'll enter into the building and then begin the queuing inside for the ride. But we basically came in through a side door and went straight into the queuing area right before you go into your first pre-show room. And I know I had to correct it on there, and I'm going to correct it again here. There's not 3 theaters like I thought. There's 2. The first one they're going to utilize now. The second one should be done by middle to late summer, maybe earlier. So once that second one is done, it will definitely help with capacity. When we lined up, they were still working out some technical difficulties. So as they say, there was snow on the runway, so we couldn't take off yet. And once they got that taken care of, we went into the first pre-show room, and it's very similar to when you walk into Avatar Flight of Passage. They have the numbers on the floor, and basically you stand on your correct number, and then you watch the pre-show. The pre-show is kind of neat. It tells you how to, you know, what you're going to experience on the ride and how to do the seatbelt, you know. Nice work, pal. That type of thing. It has the same system where if a kid is, if you don't measure up to the height on the ride, take the buckle and slide it through the loop in between the person's legs. So it still has the loop that comes up between the legs for the smaller kids. So obviously they can't slide out. But yeah, it's a very similar system to Soarin'. Now, where it differs is once the pre-show and that is done, you walk into the room, everything has to come off because you are going to be at a height, whether you're on the first or second floor. There's 2 levels of this thing. There's row 1, which is down on the bottom, and then there's another row on the top, which again, once they get this thing fully functional with both theaters going, it's going to be pretty high capacity, which will be great because each row of seats, I want to say seats like, I think it's 15 or 16. You can see quite a few in a row. And because there weren't that many of us riding, they had to disperse us out because these computers and that are very sensitive, and you can't be off balance on the ride system, otherwise it'll cause it to fault, and then you got to change that. And so because it's still going through testing as well, they told us that once the ride starts, it's going to start. We're not going to turn into the theater, but we're going to raise up, and then we're going to go down, and the system's going to fault, and then they're going to see how long it takes them to reset the system. So kind of practicing a little bit with us as well, being on the ride. Once everything got going, it's very similar to Soarin', where the canopy on top lowers down. And one thing I detail that's really cool is they know that your seatbelt is buckled because there's a light above every seat. Once that's ready and the ride begins to start, and the canopy comes down, the lights go from white to like a Northern Lights style of colors. Like one light is purple, one's green, one's kind of bluish, one's yellow, and it cycles through the whole ride like that. And this ride is also very heavily featured with the Northern Lights, which is a really neat detail. So once the canopy comes down, which is obviously where a lot of the effects come from, once that's in place, then unlike Soarin', where you're sitting on the ground and you take off up into the screen, like I mentioned earlier, imagine this being your seat right here. So everybody's seated in a row like this. No, the seats aren't as flimsy as this. So imagine everybody seated in a row like this. Instead of lifting up like that, like Soarin' does. This one turns 180 degrees like that. So now this row of seats is facing the theater, and then this row of seats looking back this way is exiting the ride, and then they're loading new people on the ride. Now when it's done, it flips back around like that, and then repeat, which, again, when it runs correctly, it's going to be very high capacity. It's very similar to the Masters of Flight at Legoland, Florida, in the Lego Movie World, if anybody's done that. So it's kind of on that type of technology. But this one, they're using all new motors, all new everything. And some of the effects weren't working also. They're still fine-tuning that. But what is really neat is a lot of the scenes, obviously, are in the Arctic. And as you fly around, you can feel the cold air blasted on you. I think that's a neat touch. And you can tell there's some areas where you're supposed to get sprayed with water, but again, they're still working on that. And the other thing that I found to be pretty cool, as in, it's kind of a combination. Like, it is like Soarin', but it's got a lot more of moments that can be a little bit more intense, meaning, does anybody remember Soarin', where you're gliding over the Great Wall of China, and then it dives down and you swoop, and you can feel yourself accelerating? There's a lot more moments like that in this ride where you feel like you're really moving. And the other thing is, the images you're seeing are not CGI or computer graphics. This is all real video that was shot in the Arctic when they went up there, which I think makes it really neat. Now, they're still working on the picture, because trying to get, an 8K video on the screen they have is no easy task. And they're trying to make it, I guess when people wrote it the other day, it was a little more blurry. The day we wrote it yesterday, it wasn't too blurry, but you did see some blurring in some of the scenes. And the scene transitions are also, they're not like Soarin', where, like, the one where you're flying through Australia and the plane comes right at you, and here comes Maverick. There's my production manager checking to make sure we're still working hard. We're good, buddy. You want to get some coffee? Appreciate it. So the scene transitions in Soarin', how they have, like, the aircraft or the whale jumps up and then it transfers to the other scenes, that kind of thing. They don't do that in this one. The scenes kind of just gradually transition from one to the next. It's pretty neat the way they do it. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil the ride for everybody, because I think everybody should experience this. But it has moments of some, like, really like some acrobatic thrills, like you really feel like you're moving. And then there's other moments where you're kind of like hovering over a lot of different animals. And then there's a whale section, which is that's a really cool thing on how they did that. It's amazing. And then, like I said, also there's a lot of features of the Northern Lights, which I thought was neat. Now, some things that were discussed because they asked us what we thought of the ride. And depending on where you sat, I guess one of the big issues they've been having with this is the actual screen, because it's a newer type of screen that they're trying to get high def out of, or trying to get the video to look as high def as possible. The problem is, the sharper the picture on the screen, the brighter it makes it. It looks like it shines almost through the screen, and you can see the posts of the supports that hold the screen up, of the structure behind it. And it sounds like if you're sitting on the ends of the bench seat, you can really see those posts through the screen, and it can be very disorienting. The other thing that people have talked about, and they're trying to find a solution to, is the screen at the top. It almost has like a horizon line where the screen just cuts off. Well, that if you're on the bottom row, you really don't notice it too much. But if you're on the top row, when that little ceiling, like on Soarin', when it comes down where the effects come from, it's supposed to block your view of the top of the screen, but it doesn't. So the people on the top row can see almost like that horizon line where the screen just stops. And that also can be very disorienting when you're looking at this really cool video, but then your eye catches the end of the screen, and it's almost like being on a ship where you see with the horizon line. It can make people feel seasick when you don't see land. So there's some things they're trying to work out. But overall, once this thing gets done and finally tuned, I really believe that SeaWorld's got a really nice attraction on their hands. Is it a giant thrill ride like some of the other projects they've done? No. This is something meant for the family. It's really going to be nice for when the weather gets bad in the summer, because that was always one of the biggest complaints. I know guests would come up to me a lot on days when I'd be working in the parks during the summer, and we'd have to make the announcement that all the rides are closing down because of lightning in the area and bad weather. And there's like, well, what is there to do? Everything's closed down. I'm like, the aquariums, and I feel bad because, people pay a lot of money to be there. And granted, you can't change the weather, but everything at SeaWorld that's thrilling and fun and all the rides are outdoors, so that everything has to shut down. It's just part of it. So the fact that they're building, some indoor attractions are great. Now, this is one. I think they need at least 2 more over the next couple of years, which I'm hoping that they do that. There's tons of things that you can build indoors. I mean, my goodness. They what they could really use is another like Empire of the Penguin type ride, like a trackless indoor dark ride. I think that would be another really nice feature, because SeaWorld's got a lot of thrilling rides. I mean, they are, as they coin themselves, the roller coaster capital of Orlando, and they are. They got a lot of really good rides. In fact, if you're a roller coaster enthusiast, SeaWorld is your park. And that takes a lot of people by surprise, because when you think of SeaWorld, you don't think of roller coasters and thrill rides. But that's what they've gone to over the years, because they're trying to get away from, the animals don't do their stunts and they don't do their interactive shows anymore, where it's more of an educational experience now. They're still good shows, but they're nothing like what they used to be. So they're putting more of their efforts into their attractions and everything. And the one thing that people kept saying is, that yes, SeaWorld does have the Sesame Street land, but they need something that's kind of a moderate in-between for pretty much everybody to ride. And this, I think, is going to be a nice addition. Now, the one thing I will say, and I can see some issues coming up when this thing opens, if you have a high probability of motion sickness, I would steer clear of this, because the way it moves around in that, if you don't have motion sickness, you're going to love this. But if you have the possibility of getting motion sick, you're probably going to want to avoid this. Now, will it change when they finally get things fine-tuned? Probably. But if you're going to try to go in the early days of this, I would probably steer clear of it for right now. Just saying, you don't want to ruin your whole day from an attraction, because if you've ever had motion sickness before, once it starts, it takes forever for it to go away, because the body the ears and everything has to balance everything out again. It could take a while. So yeah, it's a neat project. I'm glad they did it. I mean, there was something that was definitely needed in that area. I like how it completes the ice and the Arctic theming of that area, because like I pointed out, you have the Altitude Burgers restaurant, which is mountain themed. You have Icebreaker, which is Arctic themed, and now you've got the Expedition Odyssey, which is Arctic and ice themed. So it's a nice area of the park, like more of like the Arctic / ice theming. Oh, the gift shop. The gift shop's really nice too. It's very similar to what it used to be, but again, they've added a lot of really cool graphics on the walls. They've repainted the floor. The Expedition Odyssey merchandise was out. We couldn't buy any, unfortunately, but it does look really nice. Opening day, as of right now, is May 9th, so a week from Friday. That's the grand opening. Today, when we were on the attraction yesterday, there was media equipment everywhere. All these cameras and everything. And I said, what's all this stuff for? And they said, oh, well, today, right now, as I'm speaking, they're filming the actual commercial for this attraction. So that's what they're doing today. And then I believe either tomorrow or Friday is going to be the media preview. So all of the social media influencers and that will be invited out for a special media preview. And then there's pass holder previews that are going to be starting very soon. And that will continue all the way through May 8th. And then May 9th is the big day where they're going to grand open this thing, and away we go. And then again, towards the middle of summer-ish right now, as long as things don't as long as they don't have any hang-ups, they're going to open up the second theater. Again, I had to correct myself in there. I thought there was going to be 3, but there's 2. But these are big theaters. I mean, it is gigantic. When you turn around and you get into that screen, it's big. I'm amazed. I'm really amazed at how they revitalized this space where the old Wild Arctic used to be. And they preserved some of the old and combined it with the new, which was really good. I'm a big fan of it. So, and I hope, like I said, that the polar bear statue out front where it says Wild Arctic above it, I hope they leave that alone, because that is a piece of history of that area. You know, Wild Arctic is obviously not there anymore. And it'd be nice if they leave that alone as a kind of an homage to what used to be there. And then the other thing that they finished yesterday that you can't see in my video, they do have the Expedition Odyssey sign. That was finished yesterday. And again, it looks nice. I think it's going to be good. So if you're a fan of Soarin', you're going to really like this. It's about, 4-minute long ride, so about very similar to Soarin'. And but it has a lot more thrilling moments, I think. It's got a lot more of those diving down and like you're really flying. My suggestion, though, if you want to see it for opening day, go ahead, but plan for a lot of delays because, again, it's brand new. It's just like everything that's going on over at Epic Universe right now. There's going to be delays, there's going to be slowdowns, and it's going to be very busy because everybody's going to want to see this thing. So if you're going to do this on the next couple weeks, especially if you want to go on day 1, pack your patience and just be ready for a long day, and just know that if you stick it out, you'll get to see a cool attraction. But again, I'm going to warn you, if you've got any motion sickness, I would steer clear of this right now until they get it fully tuned. Just my suggestion. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that little discussion of it. Yeah, if you're going to be at SeaWorld this summer, give it a try. Again, it's going to be great for when the weather gets bad. It's going to now, we'll make for some long lines because right now that's the only indoor attraction SeaWorld Orlando has. But again, it's a good start. So I'm very pleased. All right, everybody, that's it. I'll see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day. Happy middle of the week. This has been The Truth. It's been actual. And I hope it was mighty, mighty Arctic. Brand new SeaWorld ride, satisfactual. See ya.